wellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
You're listening to A Quirky Journey, the Healthy Family Podcast with your hosts Jo Whitten and Leah Follett. Welcome to A Quirky Journey. Join us as we share our family's journeys to good health. You'll find plenty of inspiration, tips and recipe ideas, as well as stories from everyday people who've struggled and overcome health problems and diet challenges in their own families. I'm Jo Whitten, author of the blog and book Quirky Cooking, and I'm here with my friend and co-host, Leah Follett. Hi, Leah.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So today we're going to be having a bit of an off-the-cuff kind of discussion, as we do, about what it means to be making lifestyle changes for well-being. Do you want to add a bit of clarification to that, Leah?
Well, I suppose that we all start with an ideal or a view to where we want to end up in the end, and the method at which we take to get there is very different. So I thought that I'd be able to share and you'd be able to share, and hopefully that ticks some boxes. But, you know, well-being for me means something completely different to somebody else, and it's our personal perceptions. For some people, well-being goes even as far as competence in like a relationship or their, personal, interpersonal relationships, their self-acceptance. And for some people, it's just getting out of that I'm not a victim mode and creating awareness of the issue that they're in order to make change and remove some of those emotional blocks.
Right. And for me, it's probably a little bit different than you. And, it's just, and I don't know that I ever had a major idea of exactly what I wanted to be in the end, and I probably still don't. But
I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
No, me either.
It's
still happening.
Once you get over that first little rise, then it's just like, I don't want to be that anymore. I want to do something else. But
it's kind of. Sorry, there's my dog. It's
Hi, Peppy.
Yeah, it's kind of taking one day at a time, and you do need to look forward and have goals, but I think you learn more as you go, and you just start having different goals as you go, don't you?
Yeah. Well, the yardstick for me definitely gets longer.
Yeah. And
where I thought I was going and heading, I'm always it's always changing.
It's always changing.
And where I want to be and what I want to do. Once you get to that, you get those small little, and then the world opens up, and there's that you couldn't do before because of mindset or how you were physically or emotionally. So it's not having the blinkers on. Remove the blinkers and just open to possibility. Okay, so at the end of every week, Jo's got this catch line she uses, which is keep working on those small changes, and we'll be back to share more of our journeys with you next week. And, that's kind of the biggest thing that we want to impart on people is that they are just small little changes, and the amount of possibilities that come from those little changes is and endless. Jo, is there anything that you want to add to that? You started this podcast with a view to doing that, and I think we're achieving that, and we're producing.
I hope so, yeah. That it's all building on the foundation, I guess, in little building blocks at a time. You've got to add one thing in and work on it, and then add another thing in. So that's what we just wanted to touch on today, some ways to work towards your health and well-being in little ways.
Little ways, because it's like with my kids, I look at them, if I give them, okay, it's time to clean your room, if I tell them, let's clean the room, they panic.
Yeah.
And it gets too much, it's too vast, and they can't see the end of it, or they can't see themselves being able to do it or achieve it. But
they don't know the steps to break it down into.
No, and, life and life balance is exactly the same. So, there's so many different facets you've got to start. And my family, it was the nutritional thing, and once we got that done, then it was the physical thing, and then it was, and we worked in the chemical stuff, and once you start crossing those off the list, you get to this point where you're like, wow, I can achieve, and now my head is clear enough, and I'm emotionally open to see what's actually out there for us as far as potential. So that's what we've kind of been working towards, isn't it?
Yeah. So shall we start off with just talking about some practical, small, sustainable changes that we can make that will lead to bigger things?
Okay, I'm going first.
Okay, go.
Okay, number one, water.
Oh,
the most
definitely
important thing on the planet.
Yeah, besides oxygen.
besides oxygen. Okay, so maybe the second thing. But, like if we haven't got water, we haven't got bacteria. And we haven't got all of that, and mostly bacteria. So it would make sense that we should be nourishing and providing that bacteria that we've made up of with, good, clean, non-chemical, non-polluted water. So the easiest thing to do is jump online and find out what sort of water you've got. If you've got fluoride in your water, you need to obviously take that out because it causes a pollutant, and some people, don't do so well with all those extra toxins because of the load that they've already got.
Yeah.
So, it's not so hard to just sort out where you are with your budget, how much water you're going through, what you think you need, and then just order it. Very efficient at shop. Click and click and click and put my credit card number in off the top of my head. So that's the easiest thing I think to do first, is making a decision, being aware that you need to make a decision to do something, and then I think the water should be done first.
Yeah. And if you can, get a good water filter. And I've had this question a lot lately. Where do I get a good water filter? What do I look for? Do you want to just give some practical advice on that? I know you've got the removable filters.
Yeah, I've got. I haven't got the Rolls Royce though. Like, there are models above mine, and of course I'm in a rental property, so it needs to sit on the bench and be locked in. But really, you just need to work out, obviously your budget. Mine is $320, I think mine is, and my filters cost me maybe $100 a year. And that takes everything out. It's a 5-stage reverse osmosis unit, and then remineralizes the water appropriately. But
okay, so 5-stage reverse osmosis. Okay, that's what people want to know. What kind?
Yeah. Okay, so I really love Graham, and he's from the Water Shop. Okay, and if anyone's got any questions, just ring Graham and tell him. Even because I started talking to him when I was living in Queensland, I used to send him picture messages of my faucet. I need this attachment. I need this. It's got to fit under there. And he just worked the rest of it out, because I didn't know what and chlorine taken out of my water, and I didn't even care bacterias or flukes or whatever else is not my bag, and I don't go into all the science of that. But those basic little things, if you just ring, and everyone will have some sort of water filtration business or company in town that will be happy to offer them information and guide them within their budget. If you go to the health food shops, they've got those gravity-fed ones that go through the volcanic rock as well, and they do the same thing. The only difference between what I've got and what that is that I'm using mains pressure, because I'm using it to cook with, and I'm rinsing my vegetables, and I'm, we go through a lot of water making fermented foods. So then it goes back to, well, what's your water usage like? How much using, and how are you using it? So otherwise, if you're going to use one of those gravity-fed things, have container and bank in advance of, if you're going to prepare krauts and things like that. So
that one would be more for just drinking water mainly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, easy to put on the bench, looks good. Have it in the office, have it on your work desk.
Yep.
But if you've got a family like as large as yours, Jo, because you've got more than me, then you need to
that's not going to be big enough.
Consider these are going to go through. So that would just drive you nuts. You'd always be running out. So you just get online or give someone a call and tell them what your needs are, and they'll sort out the rest. It can be their headache and not yours.
We've got the under the sink one that's all hooked in and plumbed in. And with the 2 filters, and then I did buy the big outdoor one as well for the whole house to filter all the water, so there's no chlorine in the water. But I must admit we haven't got that put in yet, because we need to build a box to put it in. So that's got to be done yet. But that was from the Water Shop as well. Yeah. So they can sort of help you figure out what you need for your house anyway. Yeah. And I wish I had other suggestions to offer people, but I haven't gone or looked any further than them.
And it's been three years that I've been going to see them now, so I've not had any problems.
It's probably easier to talk to someone who knows lots about it anyway, so just go there.
Just go there and just bombard them. Just send them pictures and say, look, just work it out. Just do it. You don't want to be stressed about that.
That's right. I think one of the main things that people can do that is simple to help towards changing towards a better way of health is looking at what they're having for breakfast, don't you?
Mm-hmm. The way you start your day.
Yeah, because, and I've probably mentioned it a zillion times already in this podcast, but anyway, I think it's pretty important. If you're starting off the day with a sugary cereal and milk and maybe a piece of toast with jam and coffee with sugar and, you know, the traditional Western diet, all that sugar and fluff is really just going to give you a big high and then a big crash. And I found when I used to eat that way, by 9 o'clock in the morning, I was starving and I had a headache and my blood sugar levels had dropped so much I was starting to get all shaky, and I was, you know, I couldn't think straight. So what do you think it's doing to kids going to school? They can't think straight at school. They're cranky. They're fighting with other kids. You know, you really need higher fat, higher protein, lower carbs. And I mean, you can have higher carbs, but as long as they're the good kind of carbs, not refined white flour and junk and sugar and stuff like that. So I just think it's a really good way to get started on your day to have something that's more like a main meal. For both of us, that's pretty much what we do, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
And if you can't stand the idea, like some people just really can't stand the thought of a main meal for breakfast, but you can start off. Sorry, go ahead.
Some people aren't, or just aren't ready for breakfast at breakfast. You know, like it takes them a while to, I don't know, get their stomach acid ready before they're actually eating it. Mm-hmm. So breakfast for some people isn't till morning tea, depending on how they feel about that. But wherever you make breakfast, you need to make sure it's going to be an appropriate source of nutrients. Yeah.
But, I mean, I often say to people, at least if you can't stand the thought of eating, like you said, straight away, at least have a really nutritious smoothie that's got, like, avocado and coconut cream or coconut oil and maybe raw egg and all sorts of good nutritious fats and protein, nuts and seeds, fruit, veggies, whatever you want to put in it. Make it a really good nutrition. So it's like a meal in a glass, because then at least, you know, if you're the type that just gets up, gets showered and dressed and dashes out the door, at least you can take that with you, and you're having something decent to get your body started, you know, for the day, and then as soon as you can have a proper meal. Another thing that my kids like is like if you can't stand the idea of a full meal, just have some scrambled eggs with some bacon and some mushrooms or something in it, and that's considered breakfast food, so people usually can handle that. And it's a good way to get towards more of a full meal, is just having some scrambled eggs or poached eggs or something like that with maybe a little bit of veggies on the side. Like I know in your house, Leah, it's the salad as well as the meat and veggies as well as the sauerkraut.
Got to get the greens in.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get. We haven't been so good with salad for breakfast with everything else, but it's been more the cooked veggies in the broths with the eggs and the meat and veggies, but and sauerkraut.
But that'll change for us.
Yeah.
So breakfast for us is more of a summer type thing, and we're moving into cooler weather as well now. So we'll be changing back. Our broth poached veggies very soon. It's like today is our first real cold day that we've had. So there'll be a change, and the kids won't want to eat salad anymore, and they'll want to eat something else. So
that's right.
Just being aware of that. I've been working on a bit of writing, and I've been putting my recipes down. And when main meals and leftovers is the title for my thing, because that's all I'm about, is especially for breakfast. It's more, you got to cook dinner. You may as well cook extra. Like, I mean, you've always said before, and then have that. And
definitely.
Breakfast. There's nothing better than cold curry.
I warm it up.
Well, no. I
add a bit more water or some coconut milk until it's really soupy. And then once it's simmering, I crack eggs into it and stick the lid on, and then it's breakfast. Because it's like got the eggs poached in it.
So you just took that to a whole other level. Oh.
Well, see, when we have leftovers, we never generally have enough for all 6 of us again for breakfast. It's usually, there might be 3 serves left or something. So I add more broth or water or coconut milk or whatever to make it a soup, and then crack the eggs in, put the lid on, and then then it thickens up, because it's got all the eggs in it. And there's like 2 eggs with some whatever leftovers they are all around them.
Well, we've always got hard-boiled eggs. So,
okay.
Like when I do my curry thing in the morning, I just get it out of the fridge and, like slop it into a bowl and crack, like peel a couple of boiled eggs and that's it. It's ready to go. And I mean, that was great over summer because you don't want hot stuff for summer.
That's right. You're not worried about it being hot.
But I think I'll definitely be poaching some eggs in some leftover curry. That's a great idea.
Yummy.
Oh, you're so clever.
And it's just make sure, if you haven't already, listened to the podcast that we did about broth, because we talk about how we use our broth, how we make it so that it's perpetually simmering on the stove. So you've always got broth there to base your breakfast on or your meals on. So have a listen to that one as well. But like we said, if you can't stand the idea of savoury meal-like breakfasts, at least start with a smoothie and maybe some eggs. So that's a good start, If you don't like eggs, then you could do like a salad. Just try a salad or something. That's not too heavy.
Yeah, and also be mindful of where you are, as far as, like your understanding and your development and where you are at the time in your diet. And, okay, so we're coming up with these options. You might be there and might not be ready to jump into that just now. So and just expect that, any change you make, even if it's, like having a real tomato at breakfast or a piece of fruit or something that's whole and natural instead of, or having it on top of, like your more packaged processed foods. Just be happy that you're making that small little change.
Yeah, I'm just
that room and that understanding that you will get there with each one of those gains.
I'm just thinking back to where I was 10 years ago even with breakfast. I went from the whole wheat bread to spelt bread, then I went to gluten-free bread, and then I went to other things for breakfast more than breads, so more like, leftovers and meals and stuff. And now and then I'd make, or quite often actually, I'd make different kinds of fritters, so with beans and corn and shallots and egg and stuff like that, or tuna kind of fritters, or apple and oat fritters, things like that.
I made hash browns the other day.
Ooh,
we had hash browns for breakfast.
Yum, yum. Did you do it with sweet potato, or what did you?
I did it with sweet potato.
Yeah.
And, of course, because they're such a high-starch thing, we would only have them for breakfast. Otherwise, Gabriel will be ready to run a marathon in his pajamas.
Yes.
Maybe people could put that on the breakfast menu.
Yeah,
definitely,
and that's quite easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And vegetable fritters, like there's a few really good recipes, and there's one that I used to make that's a curried vegetable fritter. There's so many things like that you can make. And then I always made extra and used them for snacks during the day as well, because they were nice cold. Yeah. So that was always handy.
It's an emotional thing when it comes to food as well. And you've got this ideal that that's what breakfast is and that's what's normal. So that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
And, for me, it was such an emotional draw card that it seemed down to a nice, because my grandparents were English on both sides.
Okay.
So they'd have, creamy, buttery porridge, and that was just like such a soul food. But at the same time, it gave me most horrendous stomach pains, and because of the amount of milk and cream that she would put into that and the sugars, it really just messed me up.
Yeah, I always felt sick after porridge.
I've got the fondest memories of that.
Yeah,
I really do.
Same here. Now I feel like eating porridge.
It's one of those, and winter in my dressing gown, in my Ugg boots, with my bowl of porridge, with my nanny. Having tea out of her Royal Doulton.
Lots of brown sugar and butter.
Lots of brown sugar and all of that, and that's a real emotional thing, and you just need to accept that as that's what it was, and that's the beauty of being able to move forward and being able to listen to your body, is be able to reflect on that, knowing that it wasn't the best choice for you, but it did an awful lot for your soul. Yeah. And that's a beautiful memory to have. So don't ever reflect back on those things and think, I should have known better. No, that's part of your path. That's part of your journey. And that's part of the wonder of unpacking what you are essentially, and getting back to that inner self, I suppose.
Do you know what? One of my favourite photos is that I have of me when I was little. It's when I was 1 year old, sitting on my mum's lap, and she's feeding me my hot Milo, warm Milo, made on cow's milk. I'm sure it had sugar. No, it might not have had sugar. It would have just had the Milo in it by then at that stage. But
and a whole heap of love.
yeah, and sitting on her lap, sipping it out of a teacup. And she said, when I was 1, I had to have 2 Milos every morning before I could be talked to. I was just cranky until I had my 2 Milos. And it's like something, it's a memory thing, you know, it's just something of your childhood, but I wouldn't have that now, but that's okay.
No, but it was so meaningful back then as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone needs that. Everyone needs those memories.
But my kids will look back fondly on their broth with eggs, I hope.
They will, and the memories of even our most disastrous, awful inventions, though, Mum was the best cook and she used to do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, even though it turned out absolutely awful and horrid, their perception of that, because they're so little, you know, like they're not going to see any of that. They're only going to see what the feeling was in the house anyway. And I think that's what it comes down to is, you know, what's going on, what the overall energy is like. Like, I don't remember the busy, crazy mornings when we were trying to scream and get out of the house and do whatever. That's
not what you remember.
I remember the ones where my mum and dad actually eyeballed me and took time out with me.
Yeah.
And then I've got the connection around the food. So, you know, you could do that over a bowl of steamed broccoli.
That's right.
Not that I've got anything against broccoli, but
and I actually have friends. I remember a few years ago, before I was in this mindset, they were very healthy, and they used to buy all their bulk organic veggies, and you know, it depended whatever was in season, that's what they bought. And so they'd have this whole big box of broccoli, and because they had so much and they had to use it quickly, they would have it breakfast, lunch and dinner. They'd have broccoli. I think that's so weird, eating a heap of broccoli for breakfast. But now it's like, yeah, so what? I always have broccoli for breakfast. Isn't it funny?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I used to love the tempura veggies. I used to love the broccoli done in that sort of batter. Well, you need to recreate that for me, Jo.
Okay, we'll work on that one.
Yeah, you need to work on that one.
With no starches, great.
You know, like I actually, with my with the fritters that I made, not the fritters, the hash browns made the other day, I actually used a bit of arrowroot powder.
Oh, yes.
And that's not something I've used for such a long time, but it was just something that I went, oh, yeah, you know, like everyone's well in this house, so I thought I'd do a bit of a food challenge and see how we went. It's not something we could have every day.
Yep.
And, yeah, you know, like we actually did really well on it. So I'm considering that, you know, maybe that's our once-a-week special thing. You know how, like, people have, you know, they have their processed breakfast all week and they have their bacon and eggs on Sunday. Maybe we can have our normal breakfast all week and we can have our hash browns on Sunday. And maybe that's going to be the emotionally warming thing that my kids will remember.
That's right. The excitement of something a bit different. Yeah, that's good. What else? Do you want to mention another one of your small changes that you found helps?
I suppose I'm just having a little think. The balance, I think, that you need to identify with everything, and also with the little changes, be mindful that you have to share all the negative, all the crappy, all the mistakes that you make. Mm-hmm. Because people are going to follow who you are and what you're doing. They're going to take an interest in you because they love you.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest part of change, is creating an awareness of what you've been doing, and not so much the hardship, but, you know, the accidents, the incidental things that have been both good and bad along the way, because they're the people that they're going to measure you by how far you've gone. You're not going to remember how far you've come. But they're going to remember all the little things that you did along the way, and they're the ones that are going to hold you accountable to what you've done and the magnitude of growth that you've been through.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, I think that's a major part in the sustainability of any kind of lifestyle change, is having those people in your life, in your community, that are there to share that with. And for the first part of what we were doing with the kids, it was duck and cover. Don't send up any red flags, because what you're doing is obscure, and eating real food is dangerous, and the supplements and the, you know, crazy therapies we were doing, it was unheard of 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But now it's like I can see that not sharing that created fear in my sister. So, I've had to repair my relationship with her. I didn't want to disappoint anyone, so I didn't share anything. So just for the that I open and I wasn't transparent, I created a whole heap of ill feeling or concern for my family just because I wasn't sharing.
Oh,
So
that's a good point.
in making those little changes, you have to be open with people, because if they don't understand what you're doing and why, and that comes back to why you started the podcast to begin with, is because you wanted to be transparent. You wanted people not to be concerned for the road you were taking, but to be able to see the journey and path that you are on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've always tried to, I know when I was looking into all this myself, I wouldn't change anything unless I knew why. So when I started looking into, say, what oils to use for cooking, I had to know why. I didn't want someone to just say, use this oil. I wanted to know why you should use this oil and why not to use that oil. And it's the same when, your family's looking on and they're saying, well, why are you changing these things that our family has done forever? And you're saying, no, I can't eat that now, or I can't do that now. You need to be able to explain why and give them some... you don't want to be preaching at them and hassling them, but if they ask, you definitely need to be able to explain what you're doing.
I didn't. I just went with my gut instinct, and if it was like, okay, as soon as I met my biomedical, my Mind Foundation doctor, as soon as I met him, I was like, nah, Frank said, and that was my standard thing to everyone was, why are you using this oil? Because Frank said. Mark could say...
Well, I didn't have anybody like that. I had to share research.
Why are we buying 5 kilos of Epsom salts at a time? Because Frank said. Where's all that money gone? Frank needed it. That was my life. And
That's
it's
so funny.
still part of my life. And I just look at Mark and say, Frank. And, I don't have a problem with that anymore, and nor does he, because he knows that...
He trusts him.
Well, I had such faith in my healer.
Yeah.
And that's what he is. He's a doctor, but he, first and foremost, he's a healer. And anyone in those modalities, they go into that profession because they were born first a healer before they, worked out what they were going to be and where they were going to specialise in. That was innate in them, and they wanted to be that from the get-go. And when you meet someone like that, there's an intuitive, pass between you both, and you're just like, yep, that's who I'm going to focus on. And it could be someone, for anyone else, it could be that, like you start modelling off someone and you think, yes, they've got it together, I'm going to start modelling, I'm going to follow them, or I'm going to, like anyone you're following on Facebook. Or, Trevor Hendy. Oh, I love Trevor Hendy. He's just amazing. But, like any of those people that are just that little bit further down the road, or, are more knowledgeable because of their time in that space and place, for me, I was comfortable in that place that, yep, I have a gut instinct. My gut instinct is saying that they are right, even though I don't have the mental capacity or the language to articulate what they're doing, saying, or why. I'm just going to go with that. And that's what my 3 years was about. And I still can't, say everything I need to say about, the biochem approach and what we did. But I know that it was right and true because my gut said so.
I guess I took a different approach because, I had definitely had mentors that I looked up to, like Cindy O'Meara was a big one for me because she really helped me to understand the small change idea, and that was doable for me. But I always tried to, and I guess my dad raised us this way, that you always look into everything yourself and don't take it don't follow a person, take what they're saying and then go and research it and make sure that you agree with it. And so I guess there's a balance there. You obviously need mentors and you need people that are going to help, especially with, like you had a nutritional doctor, obviously he had the research and the study, and he'd done that for you because it was a lot of stuff that you couldn't do. And
that's why I probably was happy to pay extra, because he'd invested his life in doing that.
Yes. I just think you have to be careful, obviously, with some people who are out there on the internet that I've seen over the years, and we've all seen, that sort of prey on people who trust and will take your money and run. So I'm not saying that a nutritional doctor would do that kind of thing because they're more of a professional person, but there's a lot of websites and Facebook and stuff out there that you really need to look into it before you jump in both feet. Don't you agree?
I think so, but for me, and once you start having faith in your gut instinct, you can see the love from the fear, even in the language and what they're writing. If you can identify when someone's trying to sell to you, you can see that. And
I suppose
and
I hate being sold to.
Yeah, like, so I'm wary of a lot of websites with advertising. I'm wary of those things that are selling where they want me to hand over money.
Yeah.
I'm looking for people that are like me. I'm looking for people that are out there giving 100% with nothing, no want in return. They just want to give. And, I mean, we had an experience where a lady contacted us and wanted to transcribe all our podcasts for nothing.
Did. Rachel, you're lovely.
Rachel, she is. She's absolutely lovely.
And she's on the GAPS journey as well, and she said, I just want to help. And, that is just the most gorgeous thing.
I know, but she didn't want for anything. She's she's got a blog, she's got this. She didn't want for any advertisement. She just wanted to support us. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for people that want to share the love and want to share the growth and the gains without you handing over money to begin with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can see that.
I know we all have to have money to live, and there's times where you need to charge for your services or whatever, and we're not saying you shouldn't.
No.
But you can tell the difference between authentic and... Yeah. But anyway, I'm not really sure how we got onto that, but that was interesting.
No, I don't either. That was really important, though. That must have
been... For somebody, that was important. But, I was just saying that I just did heaps and heaps of research in the beginning, and I guess I still do. And then once you find certain people that you trust, you do take on a lot of their research and go, okay, yep, I trust that person to have researched that. So,
well, who do you trust? Who do you trust with your research?
I definitely trust Cindy O'Meara still. I've just had so much benefit from her work.
Okay. Yeah. And so we can put Cindy down. So if anyone else is comes from my background where they're just so bombarded with everything, they just need to know a good source of information. So we've got Cindy O'Meara from Changing Habits.
And if you ask her, why is this, and she can't find the information, she will research until she's blue in the face to find it out.
Yeah, okay. So we've got her. And then I follow Sara Ballantine, the paleo mum.
Yep.
Because her background, she is a researcher. Yep. So she does the same thing as Cindy O'Meara. So I suppose for everyone out there that just doesn't have a clue and just wants to know, okay, well, where do I go?
That's right.
Those two sources
and doesn't have the time to research it all themselves.
Doesn't have the time to research, but also the experience. You get the research papers and the media starts carrying on about, the research and it proves and shows this. But when you actually start breaking down a research paper and actually looking at what the data actually infers or shows, it's really easy, I should say, to misrepresent the actual outcomes. So,
twist it.
Okay, to twist it. That's right. To whatever effect that they want to be able to twist it to. So at least with those people, if if they've read the research paper, you can be sure that their interpretation of the information is true. It's not biased in any way. This is the fact, and this is what happened. So I suppose that's what you need to be looking for is accountability and understanding and the tools to be able to interpret that information.
And that's a good point right there. That the people that you look up to should be willing to be accountable. Yes. And should be willing to admit a mistake if they have been mistaken. And that's the kind of people I look up to, not someone that'll just shove it under the carpet and pretend they didn't do it.
No.
So that's a good point there. Okay, I just thought of a few. I'll just quickly mention a few more things that when Leah was talking about making small changes that lead to bigger things. One thing that I mention a lot in my seminars is, when you're first starting out on a healthy diet, it can really freak the family out because they're not used to all these changes. And like you said, they might be looking at you going, why are you suddenly changing everything we've always done? And it's unsettling. So one of the things that I recommend people do is take the family's favorite recipes and just really slowly start changing them to make them healthier. So instead of going from, your family likes pasta with bolognese sauce and lasagna and beef stroganoff and all these things, you might go, I can't feed them those anymore because those recipes are so unhealthy, whatever versions of recipes you have. But instead of chucking them out the door, just start changing those same recipes to make them healthier. So you might, if you need to go dairy-free, you might start putting in dairy-free sauce in the cheese instead of a cheese sauce in the lasagna, or you might add a heap of veggies to the bolognese sauce and serve it on vegetable noodles instead of, refined white pasta. So little things like that, little by little, I think that really helped our family to change the way that we ate, because the kids and my husband didn't feel like I was taking away all their favourites. I was just slowly changing them.
Slowly changing.
Yes. Changing the sweeteners. A lot of times people won't even notice when you change to a good sweetener and just start slowly cutting it down.
I feel sorry for the people that come to my house, though, because we don't use any sweetener.
I know. It can be a rude shock if you...
Not that we wouldn't, but it's just like when I bake and I make all my recipes, I don't use any of those things. And if I'm going to put it up on my page, I'm like, okay, so I've got to put some sweetener in there for the rest of the population.
I know. I do that sometimes
and
too
I'm
now.
always unsure. Like, and when kids come over, we've got neighbours that have just moved in. They've got little kids, and they come over, and my kids are eating chocolate, so it's just like, here, have a piece of chocolate. I don't even think about it, and I give them. I mean, you know how bitter my chocolate is, and they've just like have a bite and then they're just turning their noses up. You forget. You really do forget, because you just start moving along, and those small little tweaks that you make gets you to a point where you're all of a sudden, this is, and you don't even notice that you're at that point. But when you look back and when you go and have that thing that you used to have, it's like, wow, how on earth did I eat that?
Yes. And also things like slowly cutting down. Like, I remember a few years ago, my naturopath friend said to me, you don't need to be baking every day. Kids don't need to be eating baking every day. And I just looked at her like, really?
I know.
Because growing up, we
that was
always
your mum.
did. That was my mum. She baked something every day. We'd come home from school and there was something hot coming out of the oven. And it's been, I had to really learn to pull back and give them some fruit and some nuts and some basic things. And she also taught me, you don't need to buy things like sun-dried tomatoes and olives and fancy things for every week. It can be something you just use for special occasions and stick to basic foods. I'm like, really? Because you can get so used to eating that way that...
that sense of entitlement or expectation that that's what we have.
You always have special stuff and you always have sweets, and then people go, wow, my grocery bill is, way off the charts, when you could be sticking to much simpler foods and having the other things as special occasion foods. So I've had to learn that.
Okay, so the Easter Bunny came last week.
It did.
My kids,
not very well here.
My kids had the best Easter ever. You should have seen their faces when they realised they could eat a whole apple.
Oh,
because of our house, we've always had we've had a reduced intake of fruits and fruit sugars and that sort of stuff. But I went all out and I bought up, 2 red apples, and they had one each in their little Easter baskets, and it was like they were prepared to share, because that's what happens is you cut it up and you have one apple for the whole family, and that's your load. But it was Easter and it was special. So, William got a couple of tubes of watercolour paints, which are, he likes, his, specific brand. And Gabriel got one of those canisters that go inside the soda stream machine and an apple. And then they got a Loving Earth chocolate. So they only got 3 things each for the day. And that was it. Oh, no, and that's right. I decorated some coconuts.
Oh, that's so cute.
I decorated some coconuts. I threw some glitter in a shopping bag and threw the whole drinking coconut in there, and then I just put ribbons on the top. But that was our Easter.
I love it.
And their sense of, they just, oh, wow, we get to eat a whole apple. Like, that was bigger and better because it's so monitored and so controlled, and it's, we don't have apples. We would have berries or we would have citrus over that. But just to get something that was in season, that was incredibly sweet and, rich in colour and all that other stuff, it just blew their minds that's what they got for Easter. And I sit there and I'm just smugly thinking, you're eating an apple, big whoop, but that's my kids. That's what I've built them up to be. But, yeah, for anyone else's kids, if you put an apple in their Easter egg basket without doing all this transition and all these changes over, say, 6 years, getting back to being able to eat that one apple, like that's a huge achievement for my kids to be able to do that on that special occasion for them. They were still off their trolleys for the rest of the day.
Wow.
But,
ours, I think because of gaps, it's happened a lot quicker, then a lot of families might take a long time to transition to that sort of stage of simplicity with eating. But because of, the last 6 months on gaps, our kids had a couple of small of those salted caramel chocolates that I've just recently made, and they're on my blog. They had a couple of small bits of that. They had a couple of homemade marshmallows from your recipe. Thank you very much for that. And they loved them. And
that's good.
I think the only other thing that they had was, no, that was about all. Grandma gave them $10 each because that was their Easter present. And they didn't even complain or anything. They were happy. So I think it really changes their expectations, and, simplifying their diet helps in so many ways, because when other kids are eating chocolates all around them, it didn't actually bother them. So that was good.
No, because they learn to value things slightly different. But, it doesn't mean that they don't participate or enjoy, life in their own sphere. It's just that mine is different to yours, and that's okay.
Yeah, I guess they weren't actually at anyone's house having Easter egg hunts or anything. That would have been a bit more difficult. I would have had to make a bit more effort.
We did Easter egg hunt in the backyard, and we made little, those little plastic eggs, you can pull them in half.
Yep.
So I put little games inside those and little toys and, pom-pom beads and that kind of stuff. And then we just scattered them out there. And the next door neighbour made these hard-boiled eggs, which the kids were supposed to decorate, but they ate before they got to decorate them because they were so excited. But, there's always something. And as long as you're giving them something, and as long as it's, an activity, then, no one ever feels like they missed out. And because there were so many kids running around, they just get caught up in the enjoyment and the excitement of what it is.
Yeah. Oh, so Cassia did do decorated boiled eggs. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So that kept her happy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so with these small changes, I think, like you said, Leah, just being able to achieve that change is the key, like to focus on your goal, I guess, of that small change and reaching that goal. Yeah, so just the achievement in itself, like every one of those small changes needs to be an achievement, needs to be acknowledged, or, for you it might be achieving that and then marking time before you decide on where you're going next, or what the next big step is for you. And with each of those little achievements that you go through, you've got a clearer sense of clarity, so your decision-making's better. For some people, if it's cleaning up their diet and they have reduced pain, you can't make a decision towards your well-being if you're either based in fear or in pain. So a lot of that fogs our judgments and fogs our ability as well, because we feel restricted or confined in some way. So just making that little change, having that sense of achievement, rewarding yourself, marking time, and then going on to the next thing, you're taking the change and keep growing into yourself and keep growing through health and wellness to that point of well-being. And also keeping in mind that well-being for me is different to well-being for you. Like, I've got a different idea of what that is for me, just because of my upbringing and my ideals and my sense of self. So, not measuring yourself and saying, oh, well, that person's sense of well-being, that, they've got to have a body fat percentage of this that makes them healthy, their spray tan makes them healthy. That's their sense of well-being, and they're happy in their skin and happy with what they're doing, but that might not suit your ideal. That's right.
So you have to identify where you are and what you want to be and what you're going to be happy with at that stage. And once you get to that, tick it off, mark time, look around, see how you feel, and then go for the next thing. And if you identify that person over there looks healthy and well because of what they've got on their skin and because they're what they're wearing, and you want to be that, then go after that. If that's going to make you healthy and it's going to make you well in your mind, then be happy with what you're doing in that space. But it might be something completely different as well. So, don't get hung up on other people's sense of health. You've got to be your own health. You've got to be happy in your own skin, and you've got to create that sense of well-being and wellness for yourself. So
I think it's important, like we were saying, achieving a small step before you go on. One, like I was saying earlier, that Cindy O'Meara's book, Changing Habits, Changing Lives, was really good for me early on, because it teaches you to master a habit before you go on to a new one. So instead of just bombarding yourself with all these changes, you're focusing on one small thing, like you said, getting the hang of it, making it a habit. Cindy says it takes 21 days of doing something constantly to make it a habit. And then once you've reached that stage, you might like you said, you might mark time or you might begin a new one. And it can be something as simple as drinking 2 litres of water a day, or doing some push-ups, 5 push-ups a day, or, whatever it is. Do that for 21 whole days before you start trying to bombard yourself with other things, because we can get so eager to change that we totally overwhelm ourselves and then totally give up. So that's important, I think, is to celebrate the small wins and to make time for them and then go on to the next one.
And do them one at a time.
Yeah, one at a time.
Do them one at a time, because then you can see the change in growth from that one thing. Because if you're doing everything all at the same time, did this set me back, or was it this thing that set me back, or was it this thing? So you can't see which particular one was favouring your body and you that growth. So do the one thing and focus on that one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what shall we say about, we need to talk about how, like you said, it's different for everyone. Change will be different for you, and your well-being will be different for you than it will be for other people. And I love that quote by Theodore Roosevelt that says, do what you can with what you have where you are. And where you are is going to be different to where everybody else is, and what you have is going to be different to what everybody else has. And you just have to do what you can. Like, I had an email yesterday from someone saying, I want to start GAPS, but I'm really worried I won't be able to afford everything organic. What am I going to do? Should I start or should I not? And I said, yes, definitely start. Just do what you can. Like we said last week with Alex on the show, you do what you can with organic, and then you just make the best possible choices you can otherwise. So your changes will be different to somebody else probably, but you just start where you are and work on towards each level.
Yeah. So it's just acceptance that the change is needed, that it's that needs to happen, that you are no longer the victim and you can empower yourself, and that you actually have the tools to be able to do that change yourself. Or if you don't have the tools immediately, everyone is born with the same intelligence. We've all got the same brain. We've all got the same abilities. So, in going out and learning and educating and moving on, and, we can all do that for ourselves, I suppose. So acknowledging what your path is and what your choice is, and being happy in that you can make those choices for yourself. Or you can make them on behalf of, for me, I make all the choices in the house. Mark just has to live with them. But, going on and doing those things and being excited with the potential.
Yeah.
Well, it's true.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to say it out loud.
But he's not here, and he doesn't listen to my podcast.
Oh, that's fine. All right then.
I've just got to look over my shoulder and make sure he's not standing behind me and he's got off work early.
Another quote that I love is that one by Maya Angelou that says, do the best you can until you know better, then do better. Because, you can only do what you know, and don't feel guilty looking back. Like you said earlier, don't feel guilty looking back at things that you used to do or things you used to eat. You did the best you could back then. And as you knew better, you started on, doing better. So it's bit by bit.
It is. And, looking at the growth and allowing it to change and evolve as you go. So it comes back to being kind to who you are and where you were, and that, when I was 8, eating a bowl of porridge was brilliant and perfect, and it was just what it is, and it was just what it needed to be. But now I know that that's not the best choice for my particular body type, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be looking over the fence and then, thinking towards myself or, thinking badly about another person because that's what they're feeding their child. And I think that mothers have that mentality when it comes to the lunch boxes at school.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I'm the best mother, or I'm trying to be the best mother because I'm giving my child this, and, well, that person's not the best mother because they're not providing their child that. Well,
it can be very much like that, can't it?
Yeah, but, what suits your diet, your family, your body type, your lifestyle isn't going to suit another person. So by that perspective, they could be thinking and feeling the same thing about you. So it's better not to think about and have yourself in that mindset at all. And if you catch yourself analysing or critiquing somebody else without a full picture of what's going on. It's best to pattern shift and really draw on that heartfelt emotion that that mother did their best with what they had, with the information that they've got, and it's perfect for what it is today in this time and place.
And also I think we have to remember that you don't know what's going on in that home and what struggles they're going through, and if their kids' lunchbox is full of packets, there could be a very good reason for that.
Well, could be. It could be, you know, like, and you know, there's always, even with the packet food, you look at, just because it says it's organic doesn't mean it's like we learnt the other week. Just because it's organic doesn't mean it's any better than the other stuff. Okay, it doesn't have the, you know, the chemical load, but it's still full of starches and the sugars and all those other things.
Yeah.
But, you know, it could be that they're just busy. It could be that they haven't got the time or the education.
Or there's a new baby in the house. Or mum's sick. Or
mum's sick, or we didn't have time, or, you know, like there could be this abundance. So just really sending out the love and appreciating everyone on whatever level, whatever place they're in and wherever they're coming from, is just accept it for what it is, who they are, and just, just love them, just grab them and just, you know, really appreciate being part of the community and being present and accepting the, you know, the difference that they are bringing to the community.
Yeah. And we really need to support each other with all of this, don't we? It can be a bit of a lonely ride at times when you are starting to change over your diet and change the way that you do things. I find that when I'm in a group of people that think the same as me, same-ish, no one's exactly alike, obviously, and make sure that you actually take some time out to feed yourself and grow and spend time on your own as well as with your family and friends, and think about what you're doing. I think that's been very important for me, is to get some time alone and think. And let my mum calls it taking some time out to let your soul catch up with your body.
I like that. I like that.
And just
like that.
Get some quiet time and learn to relax a bit too. Like you said, just let other people do what they need to do, and you just do what you need to do. What would you like to say about what's important to you?
Okay, so the creative wellness in yourself, if that increases, then it increases the energetic potential in the world. So going back to that heartfelt radiance of, positive energy, and how you cleaning up your diet, doing the best for your family is going to start inspiring and rubbing off on other people.
It does.
And the aim is to reduce like the negative fear-based energy that we experience from, like all sources. And then working through our emotional blocks in order to, get back to a sense of who we are and just being aware of other people's backgrounds, I suppose. Oh, actually, on that matter, Patch Adams, have you seen that movie?
No.
Okay. So that's all about, for me, it's all about the energetic presence, I suppose, and the effect that other people can have. And it was about a doctor who went into hospitals and, there were all these sick kids and all these things, and he was bombarded with, this negative, imagery, and he went out of his way to show so much love, laughter and potential that he was healing people just by being who he is.
Yeah.
And, putting on a brave face and going out into the world and dealing with his own emotional issues. So I suppose that's what I want to say in changing and increasing the energetic potential of who you are. Just because you've got the skills to change those small incremental things every day, you can be proud in that and you can radiate that and own it. And hopefully that rubs off on the next person.
Yep. And it is, and going back to the small changes thing, it's also small things that make such a big difference for people. So for yourself and for your family and for your friends and all the people that you meet every day at work and out the shops and everything, the smiles, the kindness, the little acts of kindness, the acceptance of others, they're just little things really that any of us can do. And it makes such a big difference in our well-being.
I get really excited when someone replaces the toilet roll.
Oh, yeah. It makes me a cup of tea. It's such a big thing.
Yeah, that consideration.
But, even at the shops, someone drops something and you go and pick it up for them, the smile they give you is just like, oh, wow, someone would do that for me. And it's so easy. So, to contribute to other people's well-being really isn't a hard thing. It's small.
No, it's not.
It's small. No. And that contributes back to us, to our well-being.
It does.
So I think that's a really big, important part of well-being, is to look out for other people's needs and do what you can to help them.
Ensuring that everything is heartfelt.
Yeah, definitely. And just also, I must mention slowing down and enjoying life, because I know as a mum, and I know you're probably the same as me, you can get so busy that you don't have, or you probably don't because you're very balanced, but
I never used to be. Actually, no, I'm not very balanced at all.
Well, we try.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I've just got to stay just that little step above before everyone else.
Oh,
just one step.
I know.
And then I just pretend that I know what I'm talking about, and really I don't.
We're all the same.
I've only just achieved that thing last week, but right.
I
talk about it like I know what I'm doing.
Well, we're working on it, aren't we? It's all that, slowing down and enjoying life, and actually enjoying the journey as you go, and not just having your eyes so fixed on the goal that you can't enjoy the actual journey to the goal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I think we can get stressed out with where we want to be, and not focus on where we are right now as well.
Yeah.
And bringing, just not going so fast that you miss what's going on around you, and getting so busy that everything's sort of lost.
Yeah, because, life's a road trip. You got to look out the window.
Yes.
Enjoy the ride.
Yes, enjoy the music.
That's right.
That's right.
And they're screaming in the back seat. And,
No.
It's all of those things.
Well, it is. That's all part of it, isn't it? Yeah. But, I think it's really important to enjoy the ride. And it's getting rather noisy here. I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that?
No, I can't hear that.
Oh, good. But it's
all right.
It's nice noise. It's my kids in the kitchen cleaning up and doing dishes, so I'm not complaining. Yeah.
Oh, no. You still sound like a transformer.
Oh,
it's
dear.
Okay.
Well, we'll finish up because I think the weather's not that great for a podcast.
No,
it's funny.
all right.
It's funny that you've got to have a good weather for a podcast, don't you? It's like a picnic.
This low cloud. I don't know what it is. So.
Yeah.
But we got most of it done. We got some of the important stuff ticked off and addressed today. So I'm proud. I'm happy with that.
And we will put links on the Wellness Couch blog. We'll put links on there for you to go through and have a look. So I know I've got a couple of things on my website that talk about ways that I find helpful for slowing down and for achieving a bit more well-being in my life. And I'm sure Leah has some stuff that she'd like to share as well.
Oh, look, I haven't got it written down anywhere.
But
I'm only new at this game. I don't have content.
Oh.
You've got to ask me. You've got to ring me.
You can probably think of things that you would like to recommend, though, that people.
Yes, I could do that.
Yeah,
I'll go and do that. Maybe I'll find one of my another podcast of somebody else's that I really enjoyed.
Yeah. But thank you, everybody, for listening with our stops and starts. And I hope that you did get something out of that, and that you can think of some small changes that you can make, that you can work on this week. And they don't have to be finished this week. Just remember, it's all a journey, and enjoy the journey. And we hope you'll come back and enjoy listening to our quirky journeys next week. All right. And please post any questions or comments that you have on our Facebook pages or on the website, thewellnesscouch.com/A Quirky Journey. And we'd love it if you subscribe to our podcast, and keep going this week, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/The Wellness Couch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.